Welcome to Sun Moon Saga. I hope you enjoy this story. Let's begin. Lila stared at the pregnancy test, her heart pounding louder than the city traffic outside. Pregnant, at 17. Her parents would freak out. And Patrick, well, he was already on the next bus out of town. The tiny positive symbol glared back at her like an accusation, her future slipping through her fingers. She could almost hear her mom's voice, full of disappointment and worry. How was she supposed to face them? More importantly, how was she supposed to handle this alone? She glanced in the mirror, eyes wide with fear. What the hell am I gonna do now? The smell of bacon wafted upstairs, a cruel reminder that life was moving on downstairs as usual. Her younger brother, Tommy, would be begging for extra syrup on his pancakes, and her dad would be grumbling about the latest headlines. For them, it was just another Saturday morning. For her, everything had changed in the blink of an eye. Lila's phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. It was a message from Patrick. Sorry, but I can't do this. I need to focus on my future. Her heart sank as she read the words. Patrick wasn't just on the next bus out of town. He was out of her life. She felt a mix of anger and betrayal. How could he abandon her when she needed him the most? She wanted to scream, cry, anything to release the torrent of emotions crashing over her. Downstairs, the familiar sounds of breakfast continued, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in her mind. Taking a deep breath, Lila shoved the test into her pocket and forced herself to join them. As she entered the kitchen, her mom, Julie, looked up and smiled. "Morning, sweetie. You're just in time. Pancakes are almost ready." Before Lila could respond, the doorbell rang. Her father, Rick, grumbled and got up to answer it. Moments later, he returned with a stern expression and a police officer by his side. "Lila," Rick said, his voice tight. "This officer says you're under investigation for shoplifting." Lila's world spun. "What? That's impossible," she exclaimed. But deep down, she remembered the day she and Sarah had dared each other to take something small from the corner store, a silly teenage prank. Now it was coming back to haunt her at the worst possible time. Her parents' shocked faces and the officer's stern gaze made her realize she was in deeper trouble than she had ever imagined. Lila's face turned pale as the officer handed her a citation. "You'll need to come down to the station for questioning," he said. Her parents stared at her, their expressions a mix of confusion and disappointment. Before she could even process the accusation, Tommy piped up, "Lila wouldn't steal anything. She's too scared to even take an extra cookie." His innocent defense brought a bitter smile to Lila's lips, but it did nothing to ease the tension in the room. Just as Lila thought the day couldn't get any worse, Julie's phone buzzed with a call from the hospital. Her grandmother, who had been battling a severe illness, had taken a turn for the worse. "We need to go now," Julie said, her voice trembling. Lila watched as her father wrapped his arms around her mother, comforting her. In that moment, Lila felt completely overwhelmed by the chaos unfolding around her. How had her life unraveled so quickly? As they rushed to the hospital, Lila couldn't shake the feeling of dread. Her mind raced, trying to figure out how she could possibly deal with all of this at once. Pregnant, accused of shoplifting, and now facing the potential loss of her beloved grandmother. She glanced out the window, tears streaming down her face, wishing she could escape from this nightmare. When they arrived at the hospital, the air was thick with the scent of antiseptic. They hurried to her grandmother's room, where the old woman lay weak and fragile. "Lila," her grandmother whispered, reaching out a trembling hand. "I need to tell you something important." Lila leaned in, her heart pounding. "There's a letter for you in my desk at home. It's from your real father." Lila's world tilted on its axis. Her real father? She had always believed Rick was her biological dad. As her grandmother drifted back into unconsciousness, Lila's mind swirled with questions. Who was her real father, and why had this been kept a secret? The revelation felt like the final straw in a day that had already shattered her reality. As they drove back home from the hospital, the car was silent, each family member lost in their own thoughts. Lila stared out the window, her mind racing. She couldn't believe her grandmother's revelation. She had always felt a bit different, a bit disconnected, but she never imagined it was because Rick wasn't her real father. The letter held the answers, but did she even want to know the truth? When they finally reached home, Lila made a beeline for her grandmother's room. She rummaged through the old wooden desk, her hands shaking. After a few tense minutes, she found it, a yellowed envelope with her name scrawled in familiar handwriting. She tore it open, her heart pounding in her chest. The letter revealed that her biological father was a man named David who lived just a few towns over. He had been a fleeting romance for her mother, ending before Lila was born. Lila's hands trembled as she read his heartfelt words, written years ago. He had wanted to be a part of her life but respected Julie's wishes to keep it a secret. Tears blurred her vision. Her life had been built on a lie, and she felt a strange mixture of anger, betrayal, and curiosity. Julie found her in the room, the letter clutched in her hand. "Mom, why didn't you tell me?" Lila's voice was barely above a whisper. Julie sighed, tears in her eyes. "I thought I was protecting you, Lila. Rick has been a wonderful father to you. I didn't want to complicate things, but I see now that it was wrong to keep it from you." Lila's anger flared. "Protecting me? You lied to me my entire life." She stormed out of the room, feeling the weight of everything crashing down on her. She needed to clear her head, to think about what to do next. She walked to the park, the one place that had always brought her peace. Sitting on the old swing, she let the tears flow freely. What was she going to do about the baby, the shoplifting charge, and now, finding her real father? Her life felt like a tangled mess, but deep down, she knew she had to face it all head on. As Lila swung back and forth, the rhythmic motion brought a slight sense of calm to her stormy mind. She pulled out her phone and hesitantly dialed Sarah's number. The phone rang twice before Sarah's cheerful voice answered. "Hey, Lila, what's up?" "Sarah, I really need to talk," Lila said, her voice cracking. "Can you meet me at the park?" "Of course, I'll be there in 10, Sarah replied without hesitation. True to her word, Sarah arrived quickly, her face full of concern when she saw Lila's tear-streaked cheeks. "What happened?" she asked, wrapping her friend in a tight hug. Lila poured out everything, finding out she was pregnant, Patrick's abandonment, the shoplifting accusation, and finally, the shocking revelation about her real father. Sarah listened intently, her eyes wide with shock and sympathy. "Wow, Lila, that's a lot to take in. I can't believe Patrick just bailed on you. And the shoplifting thing? We have to sort that out. But the biggest shock is about your dad. Do you want to meet him?" "I don't know," Lila admitted, wiping her tears. "Part of me is curious, but another part is scared. What if he doesn't want anything to do with me? What if meeting him just makes everything more complicated?" Sarah squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Whatever you decide, I'm here for you. We'll figure this out together, okay? One step at a time." Lila nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. "Thanks, Sarah. I don't know what I'd do without you." Later that evening, Lila sat with her parents at the kitchen table, the tension palpable. Julie and Rick exchanged worried glances before Rick finally spoke up. "Lila, we need to talk about everything that's happening. First, the shoplifting accusation. Did you really take something from the store?" Lila took a deep breath, guilt gnawing at her. "Yes, but it was a stupid prank. I never thought it would come back to haunt me like this." Rick sighed, rubbing his temples. "We'll get you a lawyer and sort this out, but you need to understand the seriousness of what you did." Julie reached across the table and took Lila's hand. "We'll support you through this, Lila. And about your biological father, I'm so sorry for keeping it from you. If you want to meet him, we'll help you do that too." Lila felt a surge of gratitude for her parents' unwavering support. "I think I do want to meet him, but I'm also scared." Julie nodded, tears in her eyes. "It's okay to be scared. We'll be with you every step of the way." The next morning, Lila called the number listed in the letter. Her heart raced as the phone rang, and she almost hung up, but then a deep voice answered. "Hello? Hi. Is this David?" Lila's voice trembled. "Yes. Who's this?" It's Lila, Julie's daughter." The silence on the other end was deafening. "Lila," David finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "I never thought I'd hear from you. How are you?" I'm okay. Actually, a lot is happening right now. Can we meet?" "Of course. Anytime, anywhere," David replied quickly. They arranged to meet at a local coffee shop. Lila felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation as she approached the meeting spot. David stood up when he saw her, and she was struck by the resemblance. Same dark eyes, same wavy hair. They sat down, both a bit awkward at first. "I can't believe this is happening," David said, his eyes studying her face. "You look so much like your mother." "I have a lot of questions," Lila said, her voice steadying. "Why didn't you ever come to see me?" David sighed deeply. "Your mother and I had a complicated relationship. She thought it would be best for you to grow up with Rick. I wanted to respect her wishes, but I've thought about you every day. Lila nodded, trying to process everything. I'm pregnant, she blurted out, surprising even herself. David's eyes widened, but he quickly composed himself. Wow, Lila, that's big news. How are you handling it? It's been tough, she admitted. Patrick, the father, left. I'm scared, but I have my family and friends. David reached across the table and took her hand. You have me now too, Lila. I want to be part of your life, if you'll let me. Tears welled up in Lila's eyes. I'd like that. As they talked, Lila felt a sense of relief. Meeting David didn't solve all her problems, but it was a step toward understanding her past and building a new future. With her family, friends, and now her biological father by her side, she felt stronger, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Lila left the coffee shop feeling a strange mix of emotions. Meeting David had been both comforting and unsettling. She had hoped for clarity, but instead, she found herself more confused than ever. As she walked to her car, her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Sarah. Got some news. Call me ASAP. Her heart skipped a beat. She dialed Sarah's number, her anxiety mounting. Hey, what's up? She asked as soon as Sarah picked up. Lila, I've been working on the shoplifting case, Sarah said, her voice filled with urgency. I spoke with Mrs. Green, the store owner. She's willing to drop the charges if you do some community service and write a formal apology. But there's a catch. She wants you to come in person to explain what happened. Lila's shoulders slumped in relief. That's great news, but I'm scared to face her. What if she's still mad? Sarah's voice was reassuring. She's actually a pretty understanding person. Just be honest and show her that you've learned from your mistake. I'll go with you for support. The next day, Lila walked into the store with Sarah by her side. Mrs. Green was waiting behind the counter, her expression stern but not unkind. Miss Lila, she said as they approached, I appreciate you coming in. I want to hear your side of the story. With Sarah's comforting presence beside her, Lila took a deep breath and explained the prank that had spiraled out of control. She spoke honestly about her fear and regret. Mrs. Green listened intently, her expression softening as Lila spoke. When Lila finished, Mrs. Green nodded slowly. I can see you genuinely regret your actions. I'll drop the charges, but remember, your actions have consequences. Do the community service and make sure this doesn't happen again. Lila felt a huge weight lift off her shoulders. Thank you so much. I promise I'll make things right. As they left the store, Sarah squeezed her hand. You did great, Lila. Now, let's focus on getting through the rest of this mess. In the following weeks, Lila worked hard to complete her community service hours. It wasn't easy, but she found solace in helping others. It seemed that her life started to get back on track. Until one morning, when Julie and Rick, visibly troubled, confronted Lila in the kitchen. Lila, we need to talk, Rick said, his tone more serious than usual. What's wrong? Lila asked, her heart sinking. She could tell something was amiss. Julie took a deep breath, her eyes full of concern. David called us this morning. He told us about your pregnancy. Lila's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. He what? I asked him to let me handle it on my own. Rick's expression hardened. We're disappointed, Lila. We've always supported you. But this is a lot to handle. We need to know if you're serious about keeping this baby. It's not just about you anymore. It's about the impact on our family. Julie's voice trembled. We're trying to understand, but this isn't what we planned for you. If you decide to keep the baby, we need you to know that there are serious consequences. You might need to find another place to live. Lila felt her world tilt on its axis. You're threatening to kick me out? She cried, tears spilling down her cheeks. I'm already dealing with so much. How can you do this to me? Rick's voice softened. We're not trying to be harsh, Lila. We just don't know if we can handle this. We need to think about what's best for everyone. Feeling betrayed and alone, Lila ran to her room, slamming the door behind her. Her phone buzzed, and it was a message from David. I'm so sorry for causing more stress. Let's talk. She dialed David's number, her hands shaking. David, I'm really upset. I didn't want you to tell them about the baby. David's voice was gentle and understanding. I'm sorry, Lila. I thought it would be better if they heard it from me rather than finding out some other way. I didn't mean to make things worse. Lila took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. What should I do now? David's offer was sincere. You can come live with me. I want to support you and the baby. I know this is a huge step, but I'm here to help. Lila weighed her options, feeling both grateful for David's support and scared about the uncertainty ahead. After a few agonizing moments, she made up her mind. Okay, I'll come live with you. Within a week, Lila had packed up her things and moved into David's modest but cozy home in the nearby town. The transition was challenging, but David's presence made the adjustment smoother. He helped her set up a nursery in one of the spare rooms and made sure she had everything she needed for the baby. David was a rock throughout Lila's pregnancy. He attended every doctor's appointment with her, listened to her worries, and reassured her that they would face everything together. His support provided a stability that Lila desperately needed. Julie and Rick were initially hesitant about their decision, but as they saw Lila's determination and David's commitment, their attitude began to soften. They visited occasionally, offering apologies and expressing their hopes for reconciliation. One crisp autumn day, Lila went into labor. David was right by her side, holding her hand through the contractions. When the baby was finally born, a healthy baby girl, the joy on David's face was undeniable. He looked at Lila with pride and said, "She's perfect." Lila's relationship with her parents also improved over time. They began to visit more frequently, bringing gifts and offering to help. Although the road to forgiveness was gradual, Lila felt a renewed sense of hope and connection with her family. As she watched her daughter sleeping peacefully in the crib, Lila reflected on how far she had come. Despite the challenges, she had found strength in unexpected places and built a new life for herself and her baby. With David by her side and her family slowly coming around, Lila felt a sense of contentment and optimism for the future. The months rolled into years, and Lila's life continued to flourish. She pursued her education while juggling motherhood, supported by her biological father's unwavering encouragement. Her parents, now more accepting of her choices, became a regular part of her daughter's life, and the family dynamics grew more harmonious. Life had not turned out as she had planned, but it had brought her to a new beginning, filled with love, understanding, and a sense of belonging. And as she watched her daughter grow, she knew that despite all the trials, she had found her way to a truly happy ending. Did you enjoy this story? Comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.